Here I thought this old lady was just being rude and not letting this girl dance, but the more I watched, the more I realized she is harassing her husband. And this old woman keeps chasing her off, and she thinks it's hilarious. Another woman shows up to harass this man, a disabled man, in a wheelchair, comes back, thinks it's hilarious. This man, I thought, was checking on him to see if he was okay. This bitch comes back. Look what he does.
Last night, as I was scrolling through TikTok and just relaxing after a long day of work, I saw that come across my For You page. And as someone who is generally in a wheelchair when I go out in public, someone who is disabled, it was not a fun video to have to witness. However, as difficult as it was to watch, I think it's very important, and I'm very glad that that original creator did post it. I'm not sure who the original person is who filmed the video. It was, as far as I'm aware, not filmed by the person who posted it to TikTok. That was a person who happens to have a decent sized following who decided to do the right thing and flame those people because they deserve it until they are held accountable for what they did. The reason I think this is so important is because a lot of people who are not disabled don't realize just how frequently instances like that happen. It's a lot more frequently than you would think. Basically, every single time wheelchair-bound people have to go out in public, especially if they have to go out alone or with someone else, like one other person who is not in a much better physical state than they are, we have to risk things like this happening or worse. People immediately see people who are wheelchair-bound as easy targets for harassment and bullying and sometimes even assaults. All it takes is looking into statistics to find out just how often people who are disabled are assaulted and hurt, sometimes by their own family members and people they thought were friends, and sometimes in instances like this, these people were literally just trying to be out, enjoying themselves like anybody else, and they deserved that. I am sick and tired of the fact that a lot of people seem to think that disabled people have to earn the same respect that able-bodied people are just given on a daily basis. No one was bothering anyone else at that event. Everyone was being left alone. They targeted him because he was in a wheelchair, and as soon as they realized when they first targeted him that whatever ailment he has made him physically incapable of defending himself, they decided it was an absolute free-for-all. And then, of course, his poor wife, who's not in much of a better physical state than he is, tries to defend her husband. At least that's who I assume it was. I believe the creator may have said something like that, I'm not sure. But she tries to defend him. They realize that she can't keep up with them, so they start harassing her as well and thinking it's this big joke. But what bothers me most, two things that bother me most, are the fact that that one man in the middle of the clip approached him. I could tell by the man in the wheelchair's body language that he was hopeful. He thought this man was here to help him as he was being harassed by strangers. And here's what you need to understand. In hindsight, watching this video after the fact, it may look like, oh, it's just a bunch of drunk idiots, like they're harmless, they're just annoying. But when you are wheelchair bound in public like he is, and suddenly these random people you don't know start swarming you, start saying nasty things to you, start harassing you, you have absolutely no way of knowing if they're safe or not. You have no idea of knowing whether they are just drunken idiots who are just acting foolish or if they are out to cause you harm. That's the fact of the matter. In that moment, that man probably thought he was going to leave there dead. That's how I would have felt if I were in his shoes. And I'm seeing a lot of people say things like, people need to show more respect to the disabled community because one day all of us are going to be disabled. Every single one of us will be disabled in some way or another if we make it to old age. But this is the thing. I'm sick of seeing that because frankly, You shouldn't have to physically go through what someone else is going through to show basic human decency and empathy. You should just know that literally no one deserves to be treated the way that he was that night and the way that his wife was treated. Because that poor woman was terrified. You could see it in her, that she was like trying her hardest to defend someone that she loves, and she knew that she couldn't. Can you imagine being put into that position where the person you love most in this entire world is, from your perception, potentially in danger, and you can do nothing? You're completely overpowered in that scenario. Add to that, and this unfortunately is something I have some real world experience in multiple times now. You could clearly see there was a crowd of people at this event. It looked like some kind of outdoor concert or something. Loads of them. I understand to a certain extent that someone is always going to turn on their phone and live stream or film when something like this is happening, because it's usually the only way you can get the police to do anything, because there's actual proof of what transpired there. I understand that. I am not one of these people who's like, oh, never turn on your phone, just go over and do something. I understand it is important to have that video documentation. But there were so many other people there. They didn't even have their phones out. They just stood there. They chose to do absolutely nothing whatsoever. You cannot tell me that in that entire crowd of people that night, not a single person felt that they could intervene, felt that they could overpower the people who were harassing this couple, felt like they could at least get police intervention involved, or if they didn't trust the police, get some kind of bouncer or something. You can't tell me an outdoor concert didn't have bodyguards or something at it, or some kind of security. Nobody did a single thing to help him in a moment where he must have been completely terrified out of his mind. And I am so tired of that, because I've been through that too. I was told when I've had similar events happen to me that there were 200 people watching it happen and not a single one of them did anything to help me. And this is normal for physically disabled people, and it shouldn't be. Again, we shouldn't have to sit here and prove that we deserve basic common decency. I'm tired of it. If you see something like this happening and you're too afraid to physically intervene, you think you could be overpowered or something, do anything. Like I said, you've got a phone right there, call 911. Say that there's something going down and that you don't know how dangerous it is. If you don't trust the cops, that's totally understandable. Then get security. Do something, but never just stand there and do nothing, because guess what? You're no better than the people who were harassing him. That's all I've got to say tonight, because in case you couldn't tell, I'm a little bit pissed off about this entire thing, so I'm signing off now.